Have you ever thought about the role that silence plays in sound design? See, what's funny about sound design is that what isn't included is often just as important as what is included. If you've ever been watching a film or TV show or playing a game and there was a moment of dead silence, I can guarantee you without a shadow of a doubt that it was put there on purpose. A sound designer would never let a scene make it through the final cut completely silent without making the deliberate decision to omit sound from that part. If a sound mix were all noise and all sound with no break, the audience or player would get easily overwhelmed. Not only that, but the lack of sound can make both the silent and loud moments equally more impactful. Sadly, most genres don't get the opportunity to take advantage of the power that silence has, except for horror. A classic example of the use of silence to make sound more impactful is the trick that horror movies pull when they subtly lower the volume down to silence right before a jump scare, which is usually incredibly loud in contrast. But what other ways can silence be used in horror without jump scares? That brings us to the subject of the video today, a 2020 indie horror game, No One Lives Under the Lighthouse. So with your permission, I'd like to talk about the opening section of the game, and its wonderful understanding of the relationship between silence and sound. Let's start with an example. As you can clearly hear in that clip, the lighthouse is completely silent until the player starts walking. The player's footsteps on the metal flight of stairs reverberate up the lonely stone walls of the tower. There's no other sounds to be heard. Not the flicker of the flame from the lantern, not even the distant echo of waves crashing on the shores below the lighthouse. This creates a wonderfully tense atmosphere where the space is too quiet, almost unnaturally quiet, causing an unsettling sense of being on edge, expecting another sound to break the silence and jump out at the player with an unexpected Now that the player knows they are not alone, this silence is so much more intimidating. Knowing that something or someone is lurking in the silence, watching and waiting. You can't hear them, but they can hear you. Especially with how loud your footsteps are in this echoey tower. But you press on with your job, determined to get the lighthouse on and to get your mind off the darkness in the cellar. Now this lighthouse is old, really old, and the way the light turns is by turning a crank to wind up a weighted sack, which then lowers back down, turning the light slowly as it gradually lowers the weight back down to the ground. To turn this light on, you'll need to fill it with fuel and then turn this crank, winding the weight all the way up so that the light can turn around. Take a bit of a listen to how this whole process sounds. It's loud, right? Really loud. This is such a juxtaposition to the silence from before, where we were dreading something loud jumping out at us from the silence. We're now trying our absolute hardest to hear anything at all through the cacophony of gears turning and machinery whirring. We know that there's something watching us quietly, and we've now given it the perfect cover to sneak up behind us with this blanket of noise muffling our hearing. This is all a wonderful example of how the use of silence makes loud sounds all the more impactful. If there had been the crashing of waves heard in the distance, the loud machinery would still be noisy, absolutely, but it's made all the more noisy and all the more disconcerting after so much silence. There's one final sound that I'd like to point out today. We've talked about how the heavy machinery is a large juxtaposition to the silence that can be heard before turning the crank. But there's another sound that is produced. There's a record player at the top floor next to the crank, and if you interact with it, it'll start playing a haunting melody that echoes through the tower just like your footsteps. Take a listen. Now, I don't want to spoil the full game for you. It's quite short, only an hour or two, but it's a must play if you enjoy horror. I'd strongly recommend checking it out on Steam if you like horror games, or if you're at all passionate about great sound design. I've included a link in the description of this video if you're interested. Can you think of any other examples of the effective use of silence in a video game? Leave a comment down below, and as always, thanks for watching.